Take it.
All right, welcome to COO Executives in Transition. Looking forward to a great session. We have 7 thought leaders who are going to join, and each one is going to contribute a top about some of their ideas and some of their thoughts and some of their experiences. I'm going to outline the objectives and expectations. The COO Executive in Transition is designed to support chief operating officers in their uncertain and challenging business times. Getting COOs in transition on your way to the next great opportunity. Open to COO forum members as well as any chief operating officer or second in command executive pro bono with absolutely no fee or obligation. This initiative aligns with the Chief Operating Officer Business Forum Inc. COO Forum core values and is expressly intended for all chief operating officers and second in command executives. We're in our 5th month, and we will continue with this weekly program, and we will continue to try to add some different wrinkles as we go along as well. Some of the guidelines, just brief guidelines that are, I think, relevant. First off, meeting courtesy. Let's mute. Let's have everybody mute. You know how the sound works when you don't meet. We are business first. This is casual. Get up, put the dog out or go to the restroom. Do whatever. This is a very informal, and don't have any sense that you have to fight and be very formal. Business language and no politics. Just makes sense. Meeting recorded. We are recording this and posting it to the Mighty Network for later. So we have recorded and posted a lot of archives, and if you want to jump in on that, just head into the Mighty Networks and pick your one. Keep your job prospects confidential. The worst thing that can happen to somebody is that they start getting excited about their job. They tell everybody about it, and somebody else poaches it. So we just don't want that kind of thing going on in the COO forum and in your life. We will be doing a breakout room, and we are going to have 7 individuals who are going to speak with you, and we're going to get going right now. James Beck is up, and Josh Renicker is on deck. Take it away, James.
Thank you, Bill. Good morning, everyone. I'm James Beck, COO of a 2-year-old investment firm that manages just over $2 billion in assets and invests in hyper-growth technology companies. I've been working with the team for about 2 months, and so far I'm loving it. My background, just to help put this in context for today, is very non-traditional in every sense of the word. So I imagine my messages today will be a little non-traditional or untraditional. I've raced motorcycles. I helped build the world's largest optical telescope on the top of Mauna Kea. I've owned real estate and managed properties. I'm a CPA, CMA, GCMA. Most recently, I've helped run a storied venture capital firm for the last 22 years and successfully led it through 2 challenging generational transitions. I was hoping to sound really smart in front of you today and start off with a really cool quote like Louis Pasteur's chance favors the prepared mind or something along those lines. Instead, what I have are some principles that I've lived with from non-famous people, my parents specifically. The idea here is these principles I've lived with most of my life, and I really fell back on them pretty heavily during the transition phase that I recently went through. What I'll do is I'll ask Laura to put those up for you up on the screen, but I won't go through them. They're really just principles that I've followed from two very entrepreneurial people. As I mentioned, my parents, they're not the Silicon Valley type entrepreneurs, but they're huge risk takers nonetheless. They're type A personalities that own trucking companies, real estate businesses, remodeling businesses, executives, and all kinds of growing and established companies. So they have these really crazy careers. And what I learned from them is their success and opportunities were all deeply rooted in relationships and what they stood for as individuals. And I learned that also through the transition period was a big part of my success and what got me to where I am today. I mention all that because during the transition process, I lost sight of that. And what do I mean by that? My transition was a bit unplanned and a bit unexpected. And it became truly challenging at so many levels, both professionally and personally. And what I learned is, that can deeply rattle your confidence. It can put in question your sense of value and worth. And, I think that's especially true if you're the type of person that has been hunted instead of having to be the hunter for career opportunities, most of your life. And so, again, it puts you in a whole different perspective. So what's the connection between the principles and my transition? Is the principles are what helped me through the recruiting process, the interviewing process, the job seeking process. And it's really what helped me get through to the other side. And so I'm really focused today on the secrets of success rather than being prescriptive about how or what to do specifically. And so that's why I want to share them with you. So they're up on the screen, but these principles were tested many times over during my 15-month period of transition. And I started off the transition period like, I imagine most would traditionally. I polished the resume, I reached out to recruiters, I reached out to the network to let them know I'm available and I'm out there. But it felt very transactional. And so how did I actually land the job that I have now that I'm very excited about? It all came down to two parts of the job hunting process to me. There's finding the opportunity and there's closing the opportunity. And so in terms of finding the opportunity, what I learned to do is to describe what it was that I was looking for, not the specific job. I didn't say, hey, I wanted to be a COO in a venture fund or a private equity firm. I wasn't prescriptive about that side of it. What I was is I wanted to work with a very smart and intelligent team that was very respectful of all the members, things like that. It was the attributes that mattered. And so what I did is, as I met with my network, I explained to them the attributes of what I was looking for. What I was looking for in hopes that they would help me or scout for me to find and hunt for that next opportunity that may be out there. The recruiters came up with some opportunities, but it was never really a good fit for me. There were opportunities that were more in line with what I think their objectives were than my own. And so in this particular instance, just very briefly, it all came through a friend that I helped many, many years ago, called me last summer, said, hey, what are you doing? What's going on? I updated that individual about, I'm currently in transition. I explained to them, as I said, the attributes of what I was looking for in my next role. And he says, look, I happen to know this guy, his name's Robbie, and he's trying to define what his right-hand person would look like in his organization that he started a few years ago and how he wants to build the next generation of investment firm for the future. Working with you all these years, I think you would be suited for it perfectly. So again, he referred back to a lot of the principles that I mentioned are listed there. And he was helpful in creating the opportunity, getting that door open for me. I shared with Robbie some of the ideas of what a COO could do or his right-hand person could do. And then that same network and those relationships became critically important for closing the deal, right? I was able to pull on some really amazing individuals to help speak with Robbie and explain why and how I would be the best person. There were roughly 20 candidates that I was up against, and then I got narrowed down to the final 3. And when I spoke to him after I accepted the position, I said to him, what was the main reason that you decided to go with me over everyone else? I'm just curious, is there something that I said or something that somebody said? And he really said it was just how everybody consistently spoke of me, referred to me, respected me, and that's what made the difference. And so anyway, I'll kind of stop there. I want to be sensitive to give everybody else plenty of time, but hopefully this is helpful, and happy to and look forward to the breakout session if there's anything else I can add.
All right. Hey, thanks, James. Josh Renicker's up and Louis Selincourt on deck.
All right. Good morning, everybody. When I started, so I'm Josh Renicker. I'm the COO of Energy Access Incorporated here in Indianapolis. When I was asked to speak, I was kind of reflecting on kind of my journey to get here. And I took a quasi non-traditional path. So I've been in this organization now for 15 years. And 15 years ago, I was a non-traditional college student at ITT Tech studying project management. The job I had at that time was in packaging industry, and I was just doing some simple drafting work and was dabbling in quality control. And it just so happened that the owner of this company was transitioning from a partnership to being a sole owner. And he was looking for somebody that could do the list that he had. He was like, these are all the things that I don't know how to do or can't do. And he came in and he kind of just wanted to be a fly on the wall to see what our class was learning. And I didn't let that happen. I was the student that raised my hand and said, this is all great, but can this guy talk? Because I want to know why he's here. So he stood up and kind of gave the list. And, I was kind of taking the list in, and I was like, boy, I feel comfortable with probably 50% of it. Knowing that I could probably learn 30% of it, and the rest of it I left up to chance, and just kind of attack that as a growth strategy. He called it an operations manager at the time. So he brought me in, I interviewed. I very much just leaned on my strengths. The industry was completely different. So I was coming from packaging and foam to battery chargers and electronics. So very different industries, but I just kind of leaned on my strengths. I grew up in manufacturing, so I understood processes. I understood some quality control stuff. So I was like, well, these are the things that I can bring. The rest of it, I think I can learn. So I came in and just kind of hit the ground running, ended up finishing that degree, and then kind of got promoted, I guess, internally to director level. And then through that process, I was like, boy, could use some more business acumen to kind of take this to the next level. So then I went back to school while I was working and earned my MBA through that process. And then basically sat the owners down and said, this is my growth path. This is where I want to go. If Energy Access is going to be a part of that, then this is the role that I need. And talked about buying into the company as partial owner and changing my title to COO. I didn't really aspire to be a COO. I don't know that any of us start our careers saying, I can't wait to become COO. I think we all kind of land here accidentally almost. But a couple things so that's a little bit of my story on how I got here. So a couple things that I wanted to share is just lean on your strengths. You don't have to know it all. You don't have to know absolutely everything. There's probably 3 or 4 things that you're really, really comfortable with. And lean on those. That's the value that you can bring. The next one is networking and proximity. Had I not been going to ITT Tech and not been in that class, I would have never known about this opportunity. It never got posted. So much of it is just being around the right people. And if you are strategic about that, you can land in an organization that you want to be in. You just got to be in the proximity, meet those people, reach out and network with those people. The other thing that I would recommend, ignore titles. There are plenty of small business, specifically in small business. There are plenty of small businesses out there that what they're missing is a COO, but they don't know that. You could reach out and see where their weaknesses are and be like, boy, a good COO could change this organization around. But saying that, hey, I want to be your COO can cause a small business owner to we're not sure we want to bring somebody in at that level. So I'd say, ignore the title a little bit, focus on what value you can bring the organization. And I would challenge you guys to continue your learning. I say dare to learn just because I was listening to Brene Brown on my way into work this morning. But dare to learn, continue to learn, keep reaching. And I consider myself continually in transition. I'm never in comfortable zone. I'm always like, what more can I push? What more can I learn? Who else can I meet? So those are my things. I'm looking forward to the breakout session. We can dig in a little deeper.
All right, thanks, Josh. Louis Selincourt, you're up, and Arrelle, you're on deck.
Thank you, Bill. Hello, everybody. It's an honor and a great opportunity to be able to talk to you all today. I'd like to share my story here. So just a little bit about me. I'm an old guy, as you can see, because I got my video on. So I've been in this business, building and running companies now for 41 years or thereabouts. And I've had the good fortune of working in little companies and big companies, and little companies that grew big and reporting directly to Silicon Valley iconic type people in operational roles all the way along. And I was careful when I said operational roles because it wasn't always titled COO, but it was always the number 2, which had different titles along the way. I want to declare here and be honest and upfront. I am the dumbest guy in this room, and I'm the dumbest guy in just about any business or company I've ever worked in. I'm the guy who has a learning difficulty diagnosed. I don't learn very well, not very smart, as I said. And I'm the guy that took 3 attempts to graduate high school. And on the 3rd attempt, I think it was just because, you know, they felt sorry for me and they had to get me out the way and moved on. I don't think I really graduated, and I never went to college, but I still mean and think I'll do it one day. So given all those struggles, I think I've, come up with some ahas about what helped me in my journey along the way, do some things which worked out. Part of it's being right place, right time, and probably a good amount of it, but maybe I learned a few lessons and I'd like to share some of those things. I have been a COO, I've been a CEO, I've been a general manager, I've been an engineer, I've done all sorts of things with household name companies and little ones too. These days, just by the way, I'm an executive coach to CEOs and leaders of fast-growing companies and some household names along there. I want to state here that the COO job title or job description is one of the most varied that are out there. If you look, a COO does really a little bit of everything. And depending on which company you're talking to, sometimes they're looking after sales. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're doing more operational. Sometimes they're not. But it's really, really varied. So we COOs or seconding commands, it can be whoever we want, whatever we want, and do it however we want to. And I think that's really important when we're talking about unconventional approaches to transitions here, because I want to talk about the emphasis on the variety of experiences and how that is crucial, the breadth of skills that is important. Because a phrase that I want to repeat here a few times as I go through my little pitch is, business is business is business. It's the business is business mindset. It really doesn't matter whether you're in CPG, whether you're in Silicon Valley high tech, whether you're in automobiles, business is business. I personally have worked in everything, and Bill knows this, from shoes, selling shoes and retail shoes, through to computer networking, through to making social games. So it doesn't matter. It's business to business. And if you understand business is business is business, then you get confident with that. You can really do any job you want. And bear in mind, if you're a COO in transition, you have a unique differentiator to anybody else out there. You are the person who understands the different facets of the business, how the complex machine of businesses hang together, how they work, and where the levers and the gears are to change it and make it work more efficiently and more effectively. You don't have to be the industry expert to do that. You just need to know how things are put together and how they work. So as an earlier speaker, I think James said, be curious. Be curious about how these things work, and don't be nervous about tweaking them along the way. So I've got 5 attributes that I thought I would speak to that I think would help you tell your story. So I think it's the breadth of experience with appropriate depth. And I use the word carefully there, appropriate. So like I said, you're unique in having that breadth, but you can choose the depth. And I would suggest there's 3 to 5 things that as you're in transition that you identify as, these are the things I do really well. These are the things I can go really deep in. Could be operational, could be manufacturing, it could be business planning, it could be finance, but what are the 3 things you do really well? However, I think you need to also suggest that you are competent at just about everything else in the business, and then have a handful of saying, this isn't my area of expertise. But I think it's the breadth of knowledge that is important, that will make you unique and open up more different opportunities to you. The second element and attribute that I think is really important is to say that you've seen this movie before. Pattern recognition. You know, like I said, it doesn't really matter what the business is, and it doesn't matter whether you're 35 years old, 30 years old, 55 years old. You know, once you've seen a movie once or twice, they kind of get repetitive. And I can tell you in my work as an executive coach, and I go in and look at businesses, people say, hey, it's different here. You really need to understand. I can tell you 9 times out of 10 within the first meeting, I kind of figured it out. And it's not because I'm smart, because I'm the dumbest guy in the room, remember? It's just that there's only so many ways of solving problems. And people will have unique stories, unique names, unique situations, and you need to hear them out, because if you come to the conclusion too quickly, people won't believe you. But trust me, there's only so many ways of solving problems. Business is business, right? So you've seen the movie before, you listen to the circumstantial information, names, places, situations, but have the confidence that you probably solve these things along the way, even if it's not your prime industry or your prime background. Number 3, I think that you need to have an awareness and an ability to differentiate between strategic and tactical. Have the ability and the awareness to know, now is the time I got to zoom out. Now is the time I need to talk strategy and understand strategy and have a strategy mindset. And then know, okay, now they're asking me to zoom in on one of these 3 to 5 competency areas. I need to talk tactical. What are the specific things we need to do to get there? So zoom out for the strategy and make a conscious, mindful decision. I'm zooming out right now. Let's get to the top of the mountain, because we want to look at the log jam on the river of all those logs. And that's the one that I need to move to get the river flowing again. Because if I'm zoomed in at the tactical level, I can start chopping wood, but it's not going to move downstream again. So know when to zoom out and when to zoom in. Know when to be strategic from the out and know when to be tactical to zoom in. Number 4, so operational efficiency and effectiveness is clearly something people expect of a COO. So whilst that may not be your future job function as a COO, you are expected to be the operational guy, because that was in your title, COO, Chief Operating Officer, operational. So operational efficiency and effectiveness is something that you need to understand to know how the machine works, to know, okay, we got to work here, we got to work there. And over your years as a COO, and if you move into a new career, whether it be COO or not, be mindful about how to express, I know how this machine works, I know how to press the button here or press the button there, but I can zoom in, down, and understand operational and efficiency mechanisms, metrics, levers, how to measure, and how to progress. Business is business, doesn't matter what business it is. And then the 5th one I'll leave you with is be really good at context switching. The best COOs are considered to be multifunctional people, right? You have to know something about everything. You're not just the finance guy. You're not just the manufacturing guy. You're not just the software engineering guy. You need to know a little bit about everything. And I can tell you, I don't know about you, but it is exhausting to be context switching all day, every day, going up, down, in, out, left, right is exhausting. But exercise those context switching muscles and be able to switch context as quick as humanly possible. So that's my 5th element. Business is business. So just remember that, and you'll be good.
Hey, thanks, Louis. Arrelle, you're up, and Aaron on deck.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Arrelle Anderson. I'm the Chief of Staff at the Office of Unified Communications in Washington, D.C. That's the 311-911 call center. I've been with the COO Forum since 2013. So when I transitioned, of course, I reached out to Bill and Laura, and it was very helpful. So I'm glad to be here to speak with you all today. At first, when I got the call, I was like, why are they asking me? Like, I didn't think I had a unique background, but then when I started thinking about it, I really am what I consider a public service guru in the public sector. So I thought about my background. So for the past 15 years, I've been in public service, in the public sector on the local level, and in DC and also in Georgia. I've had the titles of chief strategy officer, chief operating officer. Right now, I'm chief of staff. And most of my jobs actually came from me applying online and interviewing well and having that chemistry, which is kind of unique because usually when people pick their number twos, it's someone that they know, someone from the community, someone they're familiar with. But because I've mastered my craft along the way, I think the energy and the synergy is there. So that's how I landed most of my opportunities. And I primarily work in a space of strategic planning, organizational transformation, like a change agent. And that's an acquired skill. A lot of people don't have it, but as you know, as us being number twos and COOs, we have it. So like my other colleagues were saying, we just have to know how to articulate it. And so when I reflected and wanted to share, I came up with 5 things as well. And the first thing is transition creates resilience. And so what I mean by that is when we think about transitioning, it's a spectrum. So you can, as you transition, it could be something you want to voluntarily do or something that abruptly may happen to you. And it might happen in public, you know, you never know, it might be on TV. So like if you Google me, you'll see my story down in Georgia. So that's, what, of course, when I reached out to Bill and Laura, when I was the chief operating officer in Georgia, I was forced to transition. They decided they wanted to go in a different direction, but since I reported to the board of directors or board of commissioners, they had to vote on it in a meeting and terminate me in a meeting on television. And the first day we decided to broadcast the meetings. And then my sister called me from Atlanta and was like, "Did you get fired?" I was like, "Yeah." She said, "I'm looking at it on TV." I'm like, I'm staying in a bed for like a month now. But it made me resilient. It really made me reflect inward, think about my talents, think about everything that I did for the county. I did everything they asked me to do. Get the buses rolling again. I made that happen. They didn't have transportation. I did everything. So when you look at it, it was a political decision. They replaced me with someone that had a high school diploma and was a fire chief, and I have an MBA. So when you peel it back and look at the story, no matter what your story is, sometimes politics is embedded in it. So just realize that transition it creates resilience, and it forces you to look inward to really show what your strengths are, be able to articulate it. And then if you have faith, it'll definitely plateau you to the next level. Because that actually brought me back here to DC, where I'm my chief of staff. And so in this role, the second thing is be clear on your interest level, because just in case you ever end up being number one, you want to be clear if you ever have to be in that role if you want to do it. So last Friday, my agency director, it was her last day. And so when they were trying to figure out who would be the interim, at that point, I realized I do not want to run a 311, 911 call center. Like I don't have that technical knowledge, and that's not my interest. So as you go through and look at what number 2 position you want to be in, think about what your interest is, just in case you ever have to step up to be number 1. That's something I didn't do, but I definitely want to recommend that to you all. And the third thing is, and grammatically it's not going to sound right, but I'm going to try to make sure it makes sense, okay? So you got to stick with me. Seek opportunities in uncommon, common places. So what I mean by that is I work in the public sector. And so when you think about DC government, we have like 125 agencies and 70 of them fall under the mayor. But when you think about 125 agencies, you have 125 leaders and a minimum of 125 number 2s in one city. So here in the District of Columbia, we have chief of staff, we have chief operating officers, we have chief resilient officers, chief strategy officers, deputy directors. So as you're looking to transition, everyone knows about government. You know, it might be something you're passionate about. Look there and see what their number 2s are doing, because we have the skills to do it. So that's what I mean by uncommon, common places. So just consider that as you're transitioning. And then remember that it always works out. At the end of the day, you know, where you are today, I'm sure you've survived things. You may be on a job thinking about transitioning. At the end of the day, it's going to definitely work out. And have fun with it, because have fun and keep smiling, because you never know who's looking at you and you never know who you're actually inspiring. So that's why when I think about transition, when I think about change, I just keep smiling, keep self-reflecting. And then I think it comes out in your conversation, it comes out in your work and everything like that. And I'm gonna close on a quote. It just came to me when I was thinking about it. I have an inspirational journal. So one of the quotes I have is from Maya Angelou, and I got that when I earned my MBA in 2003, and I live by it. She said, "You can only become truly accomplished at something you love. Don't make money your goal. Instead, pursue the things you love doing, and then do them so well that people can't take their eyes off of you." So for me, I adopted that, and usually people, before I go anywhere, sometimes, because I also do a lot of project management, they ask, who did that? So they know my work, and they say, Arrelle did that. Well, have her do this. So when you doing what you love, people will see it. They won't take their eyes off of you, and then you will just completely stay encouraged. So I look forward to speaking to each of you or whoever I meet with in the breakout room.
Okay. Thanks, Arrelle. Okay, Aaron, you're up, and Aiphi on deck.
Good morning. My name is Aaron Skiles. I am currently the head of operations for Barrel Lenses, which is a division of Shutterfly. It's interesting that one of the things I think I am uniquely qualified about being in this discussion is that in the past 10 or so years, I think I've transitioned about 6 or more times with very little gaps, and not all of them have been my choice. And frankly, the first time that I had a transition that was forced upon me, I was devastated for a good 4 to 6 weeks, and that experience really kind of helped shape my view on how to do this. And since then, I've had voluntary and involuntary. And in a weird way, I sort of relish the experience because it feels like a rebirth to a certain extent. And I've learned some things along the way about how I go about this. And I don't mean tactics, and I'd be happy to share tactics if you guys want to reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn or in the small group. But I feel like I have a feeling most of you are aware of a lot of the tactics. So I want to tell you kind of more about my own personal approach and the mindset that I've taken when I've gone through these things. The very first thing that you're hearing from all of us is I could summarize it by saying having a positive attitude. Like I said, the very first time I went through this, I was, frankly, it wasn't any fault of my own. It was just a strategic shift in the business. I really started by looking at my shortcomings and really was kind of like down on myself about, what did I do or not do to be in that spot? And what kind of helped me come out of it was I realized that, and I truly believe this, that your own personal worth is not connected to your work. You can gain a great amount of confidence and goodwill towards yourself by what you do for work. But I think about the folks when I was a general manager at Home Depot, the folks that cleared the parking lot for us and moved the carts, and I would never think anything about those people because of what they do, and that was the lowest paid job in the entire corporation. But they were good people, and I got to know them, and I realized that, and I said, well, why can't that be the same for me? Like, why do I have to view myself in the prism of what I am or am not doing at work? So I've completely separated myself from that view for like the past 10 years, and it's been wonderfully refreshing. Along those same lines, I really look at my priorities. I really think about my priorities. Bill actually encouraged me to mention this, but for the past probably 15, well, really all my life, but for the past 15 years, I've been very serious also about music. And my wife and I have a band, and I've produced several records and solo stuff, and I've played with some other groups as well, stuff that's been recorded and published. And I make sure whether I lead with that or not, obviously I'm tactful when I'm interviewing or whatnot, but the fact of the matter is that's a priority to me. And so it's not just about the work that I've done or that I'm going to do. It's also the way that I'm going to live my life. And I don't let desperation set in when I'm going through this, especially when it's a transition that wasn't planned, because I'm not going to give up who I am. So that's an important thing that I've taken away from doing this. The other thing that I think is kind of bordering on tactics, but you got to let it be known. And the first time I went through the involuntary layoff I was embarrassed to a certain extent because I wasn't listening to these things that I now tell myself, and I wasn't very vocal, with my network. And what I realized is like I was really not tapping into the resources that I had at hand. So now I'm really big on letting people know, whether it's through social media, maybe not in a public way, but maybe, connecting with the folks that are in my network, having conversations, friends and family. I once got a COO role. I was the COO of Swim Outlet for 4.5 years. And I got that because my sister was at a Hanukkah party with the CEO. And he mentioned he was looking for someone. I was living in Baltimore at the time, and now I'm back here in the Bay Area where I'm from. So by letting people know that you're looking and having a concise enough story about, I think actually, was it James who started, but was talking about not describing more what it will look like and feel like where you're going to land versus, specifically like this role at this sort of company. It helps other people grasp it as well, because they may have a slightly different perspective and be able to realize that what on the surface might sound like a square peg in a round hole is actually a round peg in a round hole once you really get in there and get a chance to speak with them. And then the final thing that I really believe, and I don't think I'm going to blow anybody's mind with this, but finding a job is a job. And I have approached it with that kind of discipline. The way that I've been able to balance the things in my life is I have to be very disciplined about it. And I happen to be a West Point grad. And so, I was an officer in the Army for 5 years. So I started with a certain level of discipline just in my most formative years. But I really do think that you have to approach it like a job. Unfortunately, you can't really get paid to find a job unless you're a recruiter, I suppose, which I did a little bit in my past as well. But you have to accept the fact that it's a job, and so set a schedule for yourself and set little goals and pat yourself on the back just because you had those conversations, even if it didn't lead to anything. So to summarize, I think that there's a lot you can do internally with the way that you approach your transition from a positive standpoint that can have a very profound effect on your results. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Aiphi, you're up, and Tom's on deck.
Hi, Happy New Year. It must have been a really tough time being in transition at this time. I was in transition, and I've also had to process layoffs, which was really painful. But from those experiences, what I saw is oftentimes it's really not you. Like at one of my previous companies, we had to have multiple rounds of layoffs. And it turned out that people who got laid off actually all went on to bigger and better things, went to a company that you have heard of, like Google, Facebook, or Adobe. But the company that laid off those people, you probably have never heard of. So definitely it's not necessarily a bad thing. It could actually be an opportunity to really open up to even more desirable opportunities. So I think the previous panel has presented lots of great points, like context switching, be clear about interest, and also let people know. So I was just speaking with a contact. We were in touch a few years ago. I didn't know that he was in transition. And so had I known that, I actually were in touch with people who may actually be able to connect with him to opportunities. So it may be helpful to just go through all your LinkedIn connections, see where they are now, see if, because I wasn't really at a company where I could have those connections, but maybe just go through your contact again, see where they are. Maybe they could be helpful or useful for your search. And another thing is, I've had some success in terms of getting jobs through my connections. And also there were recruiters reaching out based on my LinkedIn profile. So I think in today's day and age, because we're all pretty much confined at home, getting opportunities through LinkedIn could be a good investment, where it's like you can make your money while you're not looking, and so just let it do your work. So this is something I'd like to bring up. So I'm sure that you all know a lot about LinkedIn and have a complete profile and have over 500 connections, and those are things that the algorithm is using to find you. And also I think refining keywords, that's a constant challenge, and may also have to be adapted to the particular kind of opportunities you're looking for, but maybe worth the time to set it up. And also there's some interesting things that I just heard from a LinkedIn expert. She's saying that headline that we all know, in addition to putting in differentiators, also check your phone to see what's showing up. For example, for your experience summary, only the first 2 lines would show up. So if anything, you probably want to just pull out your mobile to see what people can see at the first glance. So what she suggested, the expert suggested, was have just enough experience and the keywords to get people interested. It's just like what we often say, that the first interview is to get you the second interview. And so LinkedIn is really there to get your first interview. So it doesn't have to be including your experience from the beginning of time. And so oftentimes it's what could get people to want to reach out to you, especially recruiters. And oftentimes they're looking for results that you deliver, especially things that can be quantified. And also in the summary may have some call to action, and also list your contact information. So sometimes depends on the mobile or the platform that people are using, your contact information may or may not be visible to them. And so just to make it a little easier for people to contact you, that could be useful. And so also LinkedIn has some new featured sections, like you will be able to post videos, articles, or links or work samples. Those could be things that help get jobs. I think oftentimes if you have your own website, the linking to external websites would help establish your credibility. And also I heard from recruiters that oftentimes they're looking for thought leaders. So if you post articles or link to your publications or articles, or you write something, that could be helpful also. And another thing funky about LinkedIn is their algorithm also is tracking to see how active you are on LinkedIn. So any kind of activities could be beneficial for you. Something often simple like liking someone's post or making comments or even share congratulations or offer to help, those could all be chalked up as activities. And also I think the other point to that is when you do that, because LinkedIn would show your activities, so probably also want to be prudent in terms of which ones you want the recruiters or your potential new employers to see. I think that's it. Would definitely like to connect if there is any additional information I can share, or I've used LinkedIn writers or people who specialize in that. I've outsourced that function before. So if there's information you'd like to see how to do that, would definitely be glad to share. And fingers crossed that you get to your next better opportunity and really take your career to the next level. Thank you.
Thanks, Aiphi. Tom, you're the last one here.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. We made it to the end. Good for us. Go ahead, Tom.
Hey, thank you. Good morning, everybody. You know, I've spent, except for when I came out of, I started my career in KPMG, one of the big accounting firms. I have spent my entire career working with family-owned businesses and their families. And kind of eclectic. I've been in everything from construction, mortgage banking, office furniture distribution, and most recently been working in wealth management, working with ultra high net worth families. And I'm going to share one experience, and that is when I was in the mortgage banking, I took a little 25-year-old lifestyle company and had been around kind of just doing a few $1 million a year in revenue. We took that in 7 years to, you know, from 8 branches to in Bay Area to 65 branches across the country, from 65 employees to 1,600. You know, ended up with a $700 million line of credit. And I was basically back to titles, executive VP, but everything except production, the sales reported to me. And, you know, including technology, which we had to create ourselves. I tell you the story because we did that in 7 years. And we moved from being, you know, just a small little local mortgage banker into one of the largest in the country. And what happened in that process was I lost every single network person. I mean, I did not have a network. And when we sold that company, and no, I did not have equity, unfortunately. But when we sold that company, I came out into the kind of the marketplace, if you would, with zero network. I mean, other than the partner, you know, the law partner I work closely with and the CPAs that we work closely with and bankers. But other than that, it was a start. So I came out, one of the things I swore is that I would never, no matter what I was doing as a COO, CFO, so I come at it from a CFO kind of perspective, I suppose. I promised I would never lose a network again. And I started building the network, and even joined a formal networking firm that had a, you know, their thing was, if you're not networking, you're not working. And so that's blazoned into my head that I'm always networking. And so when this latest transition appeared before me, you know, I'm still actually working with one of the ultra high net worth families. So I worked in the 100 million to say 700 million net worth families. I'm their CFO, COO. So everything that happens in that family kind of runs through me. But and I'm still consulting in that field. But what I want to let you know is that if you're not networking, you're not working. And I continue to network even today as I'm in transition. Probably over the last 20, 30 years, I've never even used a resume to get an opportunity. And this latest round is the first time I've had to actually seriously look at my resume and start using it. And I'm not finding, and I'm still, the opportunities I'm finding are through my network, not through the resume. This is the first time I've applied through a lot of different kinds of jobs, just because I was interested to see what would come of it. And it just hasn't worked as well, and probably because I have too many of these experiences. But having said that, one of the things I wanted to say, don't overlook even the slightest relationship that you might have. Don't overlook making introductions even today to people. I'm using that as a way to make sure people know what I'm doing. And honestly, I I have not reached out to everybody. You know, Aaron, that was a good point you made. You know, the first time around, I'm going like, okay, why am I not reaching out? And partially with the pandemic, I wanted to see how that worked out. And partially it was, I needed, quite frankly, a little bit of a break to catch my breath. And in this process, as I'm looking at, I had 4 or 5 different opportunities, very different opportunities. I was talking to Bill, and I think Bill said something very, that made it, you know, impacted me. And he said, Tom, don't just take something, because if you do, that'll eliminate you finding something special, eliminate finding something that you're really going to love. And I think that was, Bill, I appreciate that. That was, that made me kind of rethink a little bit of what I was doing and the number of things I was pursuing and the types of things I was pursuing. So the other thing is, you know, trade associations. I recently came across a really terrific opportunity, got into the 3rd level of interviews on something that would have been quite interesting, but it was through a trade association. I just went to the trade association website and said, what kind of career opportunities are popping up there? And sure enough, there was an opportunity that quite frankly, my background is perfect for, but didn't make it through after the 3rd, we'll call it interview process. So I just want to end with that. You know, there's been so many good suggestions. I just think that keeping a good attitude and every day just going after it. I came into the new year saying that, you know, I just decided I was going to have a great attitude for 2021. And so I'm very happy to be here. Thanks, Bill, for inviting me. I know we're running against time. Thanks, everybody. If anybody wants to chat, happy to do that. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, Laura, can we go to the breakout rooms now?
Yes, what I'm going to do is, some of you came in and fell off my breakout room list. So I'll add you once I get everybody in the room. And I'd like to go for 10 minutes if everybody's willing, at least stay to the top of the hour, and you can stay in the room till we come back, and it'll automatically send you back to the main room. But if you have to drop off for something else, not a problem. So it looks like there are probably 4 people in every room. So I'm going to open the rooms and head on in there. Everybody should be coming back in at this point.
Okay. For some reason, I'm not on Zoom right now. Or
That's
I'm
okay.
not,
We can hear you.
Okay. All right. Just we're out of time here, and I just wanted to thank. First off, I'd like to thank James, Josh, Louie, Arrelle, Aaron, Aiphi, and Tom for their great contributions to our day today. Thanks so very much, and all the participants and COOs in transition. I wish you Godspeed on getting to that next job. That's something exciting. Please let us know that you did it, because we'd like to celebrate as well.
Absolutely.
I'm done, Laura. Anything you have?
That's it. No, we're on next week, and I don't have the thought leader in front of me right now, but I will communicate that to you through the Mighty Network and emails. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.